The movie begins with the story of an 8-year-old girl named Isla. Isla is obsessed with astronomy, stars, technology, and science fiction, and she constantly engages in these interests. She frequently asks her father about planets and stars, and he answers her questions, encouraging her to study space science and artificial intelligence. Isla owns a wireless communication device that she uses to connect with any planet from which she receives a signal, recording it on her map. One night, she asks her father if there is an invention that would allow her to communicate with her deceased mother. Her father gently explains that no device, no matter how advanced, can enable communication with those who have passed away. 10 years later, Isla has grown into a young woman and has achieved her childhood dream of becoming an astronomer. She is seen standing at the site of her newly launched project, accompanied by her friend, who helps her carry her belongings after moving to a new home near her workplace. At night, Isla is sitting in front of her control device when she suddenly receives a signal from an extraterrestrial planet. She tries to decipher its meaning but cannot understand it. At that moment, her friend, Dr. Clares, arrives, and she tells him what happened. Claire speculates that the signal might be caused by climate changes or atmospheric disturbances. The next day, Isla is at a cafe, preparing her new research. Suddenly, a man named Joss asks for permission to sit at her table, and they start a conversation. Joss seems to know all about Isla's interests and her deep love for space and the stars. Isla asks Joss about his work, and he replies, "I'm a writer, and I'm currently working on a book titled The Impact of Technology on Nations. My goal is to meet David, the head of the National Science Council." Isla excuses herself and decides to leave, but before she goes, Joss invites her to dinner that evening because Dr. Dermelin will be arriving. When Dr. Dermelin arrives, Isla meets him and asks whether the council has approved her new project and if they will support it. Later, Isla and Joss sit together. Joss asks her why she became an astronomer. She replies that her father used to tell her stories about planets and stars, which made her love the field and inspired her to study it. In a flashback, Isla recalls a childhood memory when she was 8 years old, standing on their balcony, gazing at the star-filled sky. Noticing that her father had not come home as usual, she decides to go down and look for him, only to be shocked when she finds him collapsed on the ground, motionless, due to a diabetic attack. On the day of the funeral, Isla watches the guests talking, then goes to her wireless device, desperately trying to contact her father in the hope of receiving a response, but all she hears is silence. Heartbroken, she breaks down in tears. Back in the present, Isla is speaking with Dr. Clares, who tells her, "I received news from Dr. Dermelin. He said the council has rejected your project." Furious, Isla storms off to confront him, exclaiming, "You crushed my dream and rejected the most important project that could benefit this country." Dr. Dermelin responds, "You are a smart and ambitious young woman, but I advise you not to waste your time on imaginary things that don't help people. Stars and planets do not harbor life. They are just gases unfit for habitation." Determined, Isla decides to pack her things and travel with Dr. Clares to another country, hoping to secure funding and continue her project. Indeed, Isla takes her research and travels abroad. She presents her research before a panel of scientists for evaluation and approval. She explains the details of her work and the devices she possesses and needs, all of which have been authorized by the US government. However, the panel rejects her research, dismissing it as mere science fiction and a baseless fantasy. Frustrated, Isla pleads for just one chance to prove her project's success, but they refuse. As she prepares to leave, she receives a call from a panel member informing her that her project has been approved and that she has been granted funding. Overjoyed, Isla thanks them and apologizes. 4 years later, Isla is sitting in the desert, listening to planetary frequencies, having completed her project. She has installed a massive number of antennas. One day, while discussing a visit to the space agency with Dr. Clares, he objects, reminding her that the panel has given them only 1 month. And if the project fails, all equipment and resources will be revoked. He adds that 4 years have passed without any significant progress. Stubbornly clinging to her dream, Isla argues with him, saying that if he wants to withdraw, that's fine, but she will continue alone. One night, while monitoring frequencies as usual, Isla suddenly picks up a strange sound for the first time. Sensing its importance, she rushes to her car and contacts Dr. Clares and her friend, asking them to begin decoding the signal immediately. As the team analyzes the signal, they discover it contains prime numbers, indicating that it is a mathematical language from another planet. Upon reaching the headquarters, Isla decides to share this discovery with the media and the world to prove that a radio source exists beyond Earth. However, the matter reaches National Security Advisor Michael, who warns her that her findings could impact U.S. national security. Meanwhile, Dr. Dermelin arrives at the agency, bringing joy to Isla, who asks him to analyze the numbers. As they talk, another signal arrives, this time in the form of a different frequency. Dr. Dermelin deciphers the code, revealing a blurry image that they attempt to enhance. As the image clears, it displays a group of Germans announcing the date for the Olympic fireworks in the new era. A major conference is then held at the White House, attended by numerous journalists. However, to Isla's shock, the conference host, Rachel, credits the discovery to Dr. Dermelin. Despite her disappointment, Isla remains calm. Dr. Dermelin then takes the stage and reveals that the image they received was originally broadcast in Germany 26 years ago, raising questions about the nature of the signal. Isla quietly leaves the meeting and returns to her wireless device, finding Dr. Clares already working on a new code. As she approaches him, she realizes he has uncovered two images containing mathematical equations and mysterious geometric patterns. Understanding the significance of this discovery, Isla presents the images to the panel, suggesting they collaborate on decoding them. 2 weeks of intense work follow, during which Isla and her team notice the images contain numerous unique geometric shapes and equations. One day, Isla receives a cryptic message on her computer from an anonymous sender, requesting a meeting at a specific location, claiming to have vital information that will change everything. Isla decides to go, where she meets a man named Henry. He surprises her by revealing that he knows everything about her life, including her father's past. He then shows her childhood photos and proves that the panel stole her work and credited it to Dr. Dermelin. Henry also presents her with images of the equations and begins analyzing the geometric patterns, uncovering a third, previously hidden code. Realizing its significance, Isla rushes to present her findings to the panel. During her explanation, she suggests that the symbols might be a blueprint for a revolutionary machine, possibly one capable of time travel. As she speaks, Joss quietly enters the meeting and listens in fascination. When he finally joins the discussion, the atmosphere becomes even more suspenseful. A panel meeting is then held to select individuals responsible for constructing the time travel machine. The cost is enormous, so Americans donate money and 10 soldiers to support the project. Isla later attends a high-level meeting where the selection of the project supervisor takes place. Joss unexpectedly asks her, "Do you believe in God?" Shocked by the question, Isla replies, "As an astronomer, what does this have to do with anything?" She tries to deflect the conversation, but the panel demands a direct yes or no answer. When she refuses, they eject her and choose Dr. Dermelin instead. Heartbroken, Isla withdraws from the project. Days pass, and the time travel machine is completed. At its launch, a disguised saboteur sneaks aboard with a bomb, detonating it and destroying the machine. The film concludes with Isla sharing her experiences with a group of children, describing the beauty of space and stars, realizing that achieving her dream was far more difficult than she ever imagined.